Alright. Welcome to another one of my World of Warcraft Dragonflight videos. Today we're going to be looking at the Cobalt Assembly power leveling boost or farm or whatever we want to call it. And basically this happens at Cobalt Assembly in the Azure span. And what you're going to want to do is try to get a full group of players that want to get boosted. And that are willing to pay per level, right? Because that's what you're selling it for. You just set up a macro while you're in one of the major cities, and you just spam it up, try to get a full group of players. And depending on your server, depending on how much you can sell it for, this is going to lead to ridiculous amounts of gold per hour, because you should be able to boost them pretty quickly. But the hardest part is probably putting that group together and you know, being able to make that consistent gold. So the best way to do that is probably having an alt that's set up in the main city, so you can always be connected to trade chat and always be spamming to get new players into your group. I know not many people can do that. That's like a, you know, it's kind of a lot, but otherwise, you can just, you know, sit in the city, try to get a full group, and then you know, hopefully get people to wait for 5-10 minutes while you're setting up the group, and then get over here, get your buffs going, and start the farm. That's how I was able to do it over the last like week or so. My best day was a few days after I found, you know, I found the video by Boofy actually explaining this farm. It was the first that I heard of it. I tried it like a few days later, and I was able to get people in my group for about 35 to 30k per level, and I had a full group of players for like, you know, 6 hours, and I made like 1 million gold. More, I maybe made like 1.5 million gold, so it was like 200 to 300k gold an hour. But I had a full group, or I had like at least three players, you know, in my group at one time, so it was really profitable. But even at 2 players in your group, you know, only 2 players in your group paying like maybe 20k gold, you're still making a substantial amount of gold per hour, depending on, you know, how fast you can level people up, right? So if you're leveling players up, like let's say 3 to 4 levels per hour, that's a level every 15 to 20 minutes. If you're doing only 3 levels per hour, you're getting 60k per player. And if you got 2 players in your group, that's 120k gold per hour. And that's like those are like really bottom prices, because it's hard to fill up this group, so you're kind of going to want to undercut people to get people into your group. You might not be able to fill up your full group, so if you only have 2 players, I'm telling you, it's still beneficial though. It's still like a really good farm, and I know people are making ridiculous amounts of gold with this farm, because I did as well. I didn't spam it as much as I wanted to, but I think that I definitely was able to get a substantial amount of gold from this a little while ago, and it's all thanks to Boofy's video. So a major shout out to him. I'm going to post all of his stuff below in this video, in the description, so make sure you guys go check him out as well. But yeah, so as you guys can see, I'm killing these elites already. I kind of set up my character a little bit in advance just so I can get this video going quickly. I'm going to pick up this arcane enlargement. Even though this slows us down, this is a huge buff. It gives you increased damage done, reduced damage taken, and it reduces your movement speed by 15%. So it's a huge buff, but it also slows you down a bit, which is kind of annoying. That being said, there's other buffs here that can speed you up if you want that. But this one is huge. That time Cobalt Crush Up, that's a huge buff, because it basically resets all of the buffs that you've been collecting, and it allows you to kind of just like keep them forever, right? That being said, if you are to go over like, you know, 15-20 buffs, you start seeing a lot less of that Cobalt Crush Up buff in the pack, in the bubble pack, you know, the buff pack or whatever. So you know, you can either just like not pick up that many buffs and make sure you're always still having the Cobalt Crush Up available, or you can, you know, just like maintain the buff singularly by just picking up each buff, and it will reset the cooldown on the buff. But basically, you're gonna want to have your players sitting over here at this dragon. They just literally AFK right here. And you collect your gold either before each level or after each level. But make sure you're collecting your gold, because people like to scam. I mean, I've lost a bunch of gold, you know, because because people just don't want, people are always trying to finesse and they just don't want to pay, you know, and they'll pretend they're AFK for a few levels and I'll just keep farming, you know, and they'll get, the next thing I know, they got in like a few levels and then they just log out instead of paying me. So make sure you're getting your payments after every single level or before every level, whatever works best for you. But yeah, just try not to get scammed. Try to have a good group of players that want to get boosted and that understand it's going to take you a second to get buffed up. It's going to take you a second to get the group going. But you know, even if you can charge like, even if you can lowball like everybody on the server, like right now, the price for this boost is going for 30k per level from 60 to 70 per player. So if you just uncut everybody 25k, 20k, I mean, you're still able to make a ton of gold right now. I don't know how much longer it's going to last. I don't know if it's going to get patched. It hasn't been patched in like the last 2 weeks that this has been out, I feel like. So I would definitely just take advantage of it if you can. It's really hard to keep these groups together though. I mean, to put the groups together and to keep them together. And so like I honestly haven't been doing this farm that much just because of how annoying that part is. Like that's kind of how it always has been with me in boosts. Like, you know, I did a lot of mage boosting in classic, and the worst part is always dealing with the clients, you know, the customers. It's just so annoying and so tough, kind of like delegating and making sure everybody's in the right spot and everything. But if you can, you know, if you can have a warlock set up here and summon people, that, I mean, that would be amazing, right? Because then you could like summon levels 1 through 60 here very easily. Boosting players that are 60 to 70 is easier because they might already be in Dragon Isles and they can get here more easily. But I think that this farm actually does work on players 1 through 60. But basically, you see how my buffs are running out? I kind of need a rebuff. I also think being a demon hunter kind of helps in this farm, but I think that, you know, if you get enough buffs, every class is just super good in this farm. Like if you're just, you know, level 70, I think you can actually start picking these buffs up at level 68, but I don't know how viable this farm is starting at level 68, but I mean, that's kind of interesting to think about, I guess. I mean, you could definitely like solo level yourself here if you just pick up some buffs at level 68. But yeah, the special spot over here is super important because you can easily get buffs. If you're struggling getting buffs in that area, you can get buffs very easily right here because these little elementals spawn and they just have plenty of buffs. Oh my god, I see these guys are fighting to the death. You gotta be careful. There's a lot of PvP that happens in this area and you don't really want to get caught up in it because people can get the buffs and they're just as strong, you know, and you don't want to be wasting time fighting other players in that arena or in this area. You want to be just buffing your players, just killing as many of these mobs as you can. But yeah, so you just get as many buffs as you can. It's easy to get them in that area because of the elementals. So I suggest, you know, starting off over there, getting a few buffs, getting started just to get yourself started so you're not dying against these mobs. One attack that I would really watch out for, these elementals, they will puff up. Here, look, arcane. It's called Arcane Detonation. Perfect. And it can do like 200 to 300k damage if you're in its radius, right? Which can one-shot you if you don't have any health buffs, which is why Arcane Enlargement is huge just to start off with. You know, you can take it off later if it's slowing you down too much and use Arcane Health. This one is huge because it just gives you, you know, straight up health increase. You know, and the more health the better. The less likely you're going to die to like another player that's buffed up or to a group of these mobs, right? Let's grab another one of these because I'm feeling kind of weak. If it's glitching and it's not picking up the buff like that, you just walk away from it until the buffs disappear, and then you go back to it and you try again, and it should work. But I like to just collect the buffs that give you boosted base stats. The enlarged one is huge just to start off with. It sucks being slow like this, but it is what it is, you know? It's still like, you still can farm like so quickly. Like I'm destroying these things. This pack actually back here is kind of tough because these guys stun a lot. You just want to be careful. You don't want to get stunned too much because you're relying, at least I'm relying a lot on my leech, my you know, my health regen from attacking. So if I can't attack, then I can't health regen. But yeah, and so basically those guys are just collecting XP over there by that dragon, that statue dragon. And depending on how quickly or how buffed up you are, how quickly you're able to farm, how many other players are out here farming, and if you can join in and like, you know, just like, you just gotta rotate between these mobs like as best as you can, because there's a lot of mobs, and if you rotate correctly, like you'll never not have like a group of mobs to kill, right? And that means huge XP for these players that are just sitting up here AFK, and you should be able to get them a level every 10 to 20 minutes. I've been seeing people advertise this farm, I think, for like, they're getting levels like from 5 to 10 minutes on average, but I don't know how they're doing it. It might be because they just have like a better setup, you know? Maybe like a warlock summoning their players, and then like maybe they're a group of 2 demon hunters that are like killing things faster, all buffed up. But yeah, it's a crazy farm, still producing a ton of gold, I think, for a lot of players. If you can get the clientele, if you can get the people in your groups, then you're gonna make a ton of gold doing this. I like to suggest just trying it out if you're trying to make some gold in a cheeky way, you know? And also if you maybe have some friends that need to get boosted, or you need to boost your own characters, I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy. You level up, right? Every 10 to 20 minutes is one level. So from 60 to 70, I think you're leveling in about 3 hours or less, 2 to 3 hours, right? So that's crazy fast. I just did a video on the Cobalt Assembly farm, you know, where you can just kind of leech off of people, right? So you can just come here at any level and just like tag mobs with other players that are killing them and just leech the XP. You don't even need to pay for this farm, but this is also a way you can make a ton of gold. But yeah, this farm is insane. Make sure you guys try it, check it out. If you need a boost, you know, make sure to buy one, because this farm is insane and you'll level up really quickly. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope this helps somebody out there. Make sure to subscribe, follow all the socials. I'll drop them in the description. Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.